advice, the prime minister would have to meet with the monarch once a week, at least to brief the monarch on
really
what's
trying
going
to do
on.
right now.
Okay, but
And like,
In terms of
so they were very involved in
is
what was
he's
going on
trying
in
to
the state,
basically make,
even though they didn't actually
trying to get his
exercise
people
a lot
through
of
that
power.
basically make
okay, but
the
again,
cost of
It's very
living
similar to the
here
president's
dramatically
role in
up.
Israel. I'm
Well,
just saying it should go up
claiming
here.
okay, again, why does this logic not apply to being a Rav?
No, I mean, I'm not
That
talking
the
about
person who he
the
raised to be a Rav
living in
will
housing
be
costs
a
and
better
rental
Rav.
Well, theoretically, every Jew should
stuff
be
as
raised
well
to
as
be a Rav.
buying.
No, every Jew should be raised to be a Jew, not necessarily a
But you
Rav.
should- they're big
When I say a Rav, I mean a congregational
when
rabbi.
you're a parent of a
decrease
child,
costs.
How are you doing that?
you give them the
By essentially
opportunity to
making
be a
it so
Talmud
more
Chacham.
To be
stuff
anything.
rent controls.
But you
More
give
stuff
them
on the
especially
rent
the opportunity to be a
controls.
Talmud Chacham.
Yeah, but no, but I mean a
That's
congregational. I'm referring to a congregational rabbi.
Getting filled out versus just remaining not being
Yeah,
used.
I have to really.
well,
Yeah,
higher
there's certain
percentage doesn't get
situations where
used.
the son
When
of
are
the
people-
congregation's rabbi ends up
I see
becoming.
that.
Right, but do you think that it should always be like that?
Muslim.
No, not
Nothing to do with
So why is it different than?
It's different because the king has a special
mayor.
role as like the embodiment of the nation's culture and
law
historical
and order
continuity.
have nothing to do with each other.
And
No,
why can't that be with the case of the Rav?
But his biggest stuff that he's gonna have
Because
the
a
probably have the
community,
largest
which is a
impact
small
on
part of a nation,
not up
Yeah.
has some
on
historical
directly
continuity,
Jewish
not nearly as
impact.
much. It's not a
It's gonna be
national
indirectly
identity.
the same way
Talking
the
about
rest
somebody
of
who
the
represents the
but
nation's
mostly
national
on
identity.
the fact that he's a communist.
Well, you're saying the bigger the nation is, the better it would be to have such a
No,
such a
but
person.
a community which is one community
Yeah.
that has national identity that many other communities have doesn't need its own embodiment of that national identity. The whole nation needs one embodiment of
The whole nation needs one, but one community doesn't need that.
No, because they don't have a separate identity from the other communities. Maybe they do a
They
tiny
don't.
bit.
Oh, it's not that
Tiny
big.
But it's not. It's
What?
barely anything.
Okay. If a community would establish a separate identity from the other communities,
Especially white.
That's
If
called
you have empty-
ethnogenesis.
if you
That
have
happens
empty
over
rooms,
hundreds of
the government
years. I
can
mean,
fill
to have
in
another
whoever they
nation
want.
breaking
not
away.
another nation, just a unique, a bit of a
Like,
unique
America, for
culture.
example, States each have their own culture, but it's not.
Like for example, the Baal Shem Tov. Okay, he started something new.
Yeah.
So should his son be most worthy to take over his
No, because then
leadership?
you have machlokes within the nation. You're starting to break it up into different groups.
Okay.
And generally, there's an idea that to some size you should have a large cohesive nation. That's a
That's what he
a lot of nations throughout the world have had that as a more
It never
modern
goes
idea.
up
The Jews have had it for a long
But
longer.
the
Okay, again, shouldn't there
there are ways
be?
around it.
Why shouldn't
put everything in the FJJ.
the Baal Shem Tov's son be a better
They will have technical
successor
owners where the proceeds go was
than a
like,
disciple?
That's what happened. It's not impossible to get around.
You
that.
don't necessarily.
There are ways
I
around
just
it.
want to know when the New
Historical
Yorkers are gonna
continuity.
wake up and
Like-
stop COVID.
Yeah. The way it
I mean,
does
in
affect
the
is
in Chabad, that's what they
issues.
did.
They did what? The son.
Indirect
Yeah,
effect
or
on
if they
housing.
couldn't
Right.
get the son, they got
from that
So is that?
But actually, what happened
it
with
was already
Chabad is
public.
not
Yeah.
ideal because
Plus-
I think
Okay.
maybe as part of
Come with me.
it is that they did that, and as a result, Chabad is like almost kind of separating itself as a culture from the rest of Judaism.
Okay, well, that's a separate point. But in terms of having the son take over the position of the father,
I think what you're saying actually ultimately helps my argument because when you only have one person that's an embodiment of the nation's identity and these small individual pieces don't have it, then they remain subordinate to the national identity. It strengthens their attachment to the whole nation instead of smaller groups divided from each other.
again. Should the Baal Shem Tov's son be a better successor than
If he
his
learned from his-
disciple? No, he's not the best
Not as
disciple.
somebody who is representing the identity of the group or the historical.
And why is that different than by a nation?
Because a nation has this issue that a lot of the people in the nation will never even meet each other. So they need something that holds. They need culture and identity to hold all of them together, and a person that represents all of that.
Okay, and what happens if we don't have this person?
I think you have like a lot more division, and people are less proud of their culture. And I think just when you do have this person, it really strengthens the culture and turns it into something that's very deep and powerful and something that people are
Okay.
very, very secure in and love.
Okay.
And I think one of the
Okay.
benefits of Mashiach is like renewed like unity and strength of Jewish culture. And
Okay.
people
Now
think there's
let,
something-
let me ask you.
there's a person that they're standing behind that is permanent and that will always be there.
So if some members of the royal family are jerks, would it be better to cover that up or not?
I think they could be, disinherited.
They should be disinherited.
Yeah.
They should
If
be
it's if
disinherited.
it's like an irreconcilable problem, they should be disinherited.
Okay, and what about just most humans create just slip-ups, and so when your dinner table is just you and your family, that slip-ups might not have such great consequence.
Yeah.
But when they're with royalty of other nations, that
That they should make tissue.
But should those slip-ups be publicized accurately or covered up?
Publicized accurately. No, I mean, well, it's definitely not helpful to have people obsessed with what's going on with one little family. People don't like that in monarchies.
So it should be covered up.
But it should. I mean, it shouldn't be publicized. But if it gets out, then they should apologize and show that they are sorry and are changing for the better.
Right. Okay. So here's the theory. Here's the theory.
Definitely, somebody who's done something very bad, like, they've done a big avera, yeah, that should be publicized.
Okay, but
If they, I don't know, they forgot their child at a day, and I think so. You can have something that's pretty bad, but isn't really an avera. Like maybe like they, I don't know. They like hit their child or something.
right, but
So like then maybe people don't have to know. But if it's like they like visited a brothel, then people do have to know.
okay, but instead of a royalty class based on bloodline, why can't we create a royalty class based on elected officials?
Because it doesn't have the historical continuity. The family has that continuity, and you feel very secure because you know exactly who is going to be coming next. They're coming from the person you have now. That's who's going to come next. So you have the security that you can stand behind this family and they're your permanent representative of your national culture.
But like, for
Like
example,
a person who's randomly elected, ultimately they're a stranger, whereas people really feel like they know the royal
yeah,
family.
but for example, the priesthood, for sure, before the scandal, like, wasn't that an example of sort of like a continued family?
I don't think people felt as familiar with the Pope, for example, as they did with
Well,
because they're coming out of nowhere. You don't know where they come from or what their background is or what their history is.
well, I think priests were looked at as holy people and agents of God.
But it's not the same at all. So erratic, but it's not. The point is, you have a person, that you have something at the top that is really a continual thing that everybody's familiar with and can feel very secure and stand behind.
But would you agree that genuinely caring about people isn't so much something to a large extent that could be taught, but rather something that one self-develops?
Scientifically, they say that empathy is taught.
It is taught. But I just,
But you have a lot of options.
meaning there's certain, for a regular person, he has a choice, either behave ethically, where you headed?
There are things they need to do.
Either behave ethically or don't. And when it comes to a royal family, I feel like you don't really have the choice to behave ethically or not. You're just sort of like, I guess, obligated to behave ethically, so to speak. And I feel like that makes
Well, they still have a choice.
not really, because you're saying if you don't do this, I'm gonna discharge you.
Listen, I don't know.
Isn't that what you said?